And there was nothing in it. There was no idea in it, nothing. Just these folded up weird, like a serial killer Unabomber who's so anally retentive. Everything has to be completely folded the right way. So I still got that. I still got it at my house. I'm never giving it back. Give me back my stuff, whoever's listening.
Rock, metal, prog, and everything in between. Welcome to this episode of Talkin' Rock with Meltdown. Don't forget to follow the audio-only Talkin' Rock podcast on all podcast platforms. And now, it's time for today's conversation. Here's Meltdown.
It's Meltdown here in the studio, and if punctuality was a rock star, its name would be Chris Jericho. What's up, Jericho?
If who was a rock star?
Punctuality.
Oh, well, once again, I'm like Spinal Tap. I'm very punctual. Known for my punctuality. That's something that you learn from being, in the wrestling business and being in the rock and roll business. Is you never want to keep people waiting.
Yeah.
And I always don't like it when people do that to me. Like if I'm going to have them on Talk as Jericho, for example, if you say 12 o'clock, once in a while I might be 5 or 10 minutes late, but I always make sure to let somebody know. But there's a lot of times when you're sitting there just waiting, and it's like, man, I don't like that. So I always try and be right on time, even a few minutes earlier.
Yeah, no, that's a good way to go through life. I wish more people did that.
I mean, sometimes you can't avoid it, but for the most part, just be on time. It's pretty easy.
Especially nowadays when the phones kind of tell you what time you're going to be
there. Yeah, man, exactly. It's not hard to be there when you're supposed to be there. So here I am.
No, it doesn't work all the time. I remember going to see Kid Rock in Cleveland and said our arrival is at 6:15, which it was. But the parking and the everything was so screwed up. We didn't park till 8:30.
Oh wow, yeah.
That Blossom Music Center. Have you been there?
I don't know if I have.
Well, I'll never go back. I'll just tell you that much. It was too much chaos. So, anyways, welcome back to the Motor City. And just real fast off the top here, I just wanted to ask you your thoughts. You knew Sabu, right?
Of course, I knew Sabu. Yeah, I worked with him when I was in ECW. We had one match in 1996, and it was, I think, my second last match I had there. But Paul Heyman sold that match for 10 years afterwards. It was, back when tape trading was a thing. He still always advertised that match on his TV shows for years and years and years afterwards. And actually, I just had Sabu work with us in AEW a couple of years ago. And I always talked with him a lot on Instagram, on DMs. And when I say text, he text me when we were in Las Vegas at the beginning of this Fozzy tour. And he said, "Are you guys playing tonight?" And I said, "Yeah, we're at the at Counts Vamped or whatever the venue's called." Didn't hear anything else. And then when I got off stage, he had texted me at like 9 o'clock or so we usually go at 9:30. "Can you put me on the list?" I never saw it because I was getting ready for the gig. Then I find out, oh yeah, Sabu was here. I was like, what? Yeah, he was here. Like, really? Like, he didn't come and say hi or anything. So, and he never mentioned it. I talked to him afterwards, just up until about 2 weeks ago. We had a quick conversation, and he never mentioned that he was at the show. So, it's a very Sabu-esque thing to do. But yeah, it's a true shame. Like, what a pioneer in the wrestling business in so many different ways. So important and so legendary, a true legend and a true character in the business for sure.
Yeah, it's funny. I've interviewed and met a lot of wrestlers and stuff, and I've been around him, but I never really had a chance to talk to him. He seemed like kind of an enigma. Maybe that's just because I never.
He was an enigma. I think a lot of that was by design, but also a very good-hearted guy, very great sense of humor. Detroit guy. He came from Detroit. That's where I think he grew up here. But yeah, a very strange guy until you really get to know him, and then he was just a very, like I said, a very good-hearted, good dude. So I'm glad that I had reconnected with him. I brought him on the Jericho cruise a few years ago. Yeah. So yeah, I hadn't seen him for a while, but then over the last few years we had reestablished a relationship. So I'm glad that we did because, like I said, he'll be missed in the business for sure.
Yeah, I didn't realize you only had one match with him.
Only one.
Wow.
Yeah, one match is all we ever had, and like I said, it was kind of, a tape trading, classic at the time when that was still a thing back in the 90s.
Yeah, you mentioned ECW. Rhino sat in that very chair last week and talked about how much of an influence you were on him, and especially cool. When you guys started out, pretty much together.
Well, we didn't start out together. He started with Edge and Christian kind of in Toronto. I started a few years earlier than they did. But it's funny. Yeah, Rhino's awesome. He's a good guy as well. But I just got a text from him the other day, I guess maybe a month or two or so ago. It's like, hey, it's Rhino. How are you? And I was like, kind of like, okay, whatever. He maybe got a new number. And then it's like, hey, it's Rhino. I just wanted to give you a new number. Can you give me Adam Copeland's number? And I'm realizing, this is some kind of a scam. Like someone's pretending to be Rhino trying to get wrestlers' numbers. So I just blocked him. But yeah, I was like, why is Rhino calling Adam Copeland? Like, okay, this is a scam. So I don't even know if he knew about it, but Rhino, if you're listening, someone's impersonating you, trying to get wrestlers' phone numbers.
That's funny. Yeah, you mentioned Talk is Jericho, and I'm a big fan. I like to listen, especially when there's a guest, obviously, that I'm interested in. But I did see Clown in the Cornfield over the weekend.
Okay.
And I didn't think it was great.
You know, a lot of people, my friend Spencer from Ice Nine Kills walked out after 45 minutes. He didn't like it too much either. I thought it was okay. I mean, I think there's so many clown movies at this point in time that, you know, once you see Terrifier with Art the Clown, you can't really top that. But it's much more of a murder mystery, shall we say, than an out and out slasher. But I thought it was fun. Like I said, I interviewed the director Eli Craig on Talk is Jericho, and we had a good conversation. But yeah, I mean, the thing about the movie that bugged me the most is they filmed it in Winnipeg. I'm like, why wasn't I in this effing thing? Like, I think, what? In Winnipeg, no less? Come on, guys.
It is funny how they did film it, and it had this Thanksgiving feel. You've seen Thanksgiving.
I thought in my head I just said that. Yeah, it definitely had a Thanksgiving feel.
Yeah, right, exactly. And you know what the feel was to me was that not so much in the story or the plot line, but it's like they always try to make like this parade look like there's thousands of people, but you know there's only 20 people there, and they just have the cameras on this.
Yeah, that could be another reason why it reminded me of Thanksgiving. Like I said, Thanksgiving was also a murder mystery, but you're right. There was the parade.
Yeah.
You know, the mysterious killer. Who is it in the town? But yeah, I mean, whatever. It's a movie to watch and check out, and it kills 90 minutes.
That it did. That I won't get back.
You know, what was really good that I saw was Sinners.
That was fantastic.
That was amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, that's Oscar worthy, which is
great.
very rare for. It's not even a horror movie. Like I said, it's like a combination of From Dusk Till Dawn,
right,
combined with Crossroads.
Yeah.
Combined with Django Unchained. All those elements were in that movie for me.
Yeah, it's funny because it was like kind of a period piece for like the first hour, and all of a sudden it just like takes a wild turn.
Like Dusk Till Dawn had that. But it also reminded me a lot of Crossroads with the blues and how influential, the music and the power of music was. And I don't know, I just really, if anybody is on the fence about seeing it, I highly recommend it.
No, that movie was really good.
Yeah.
And then you mentioned Terrifier too. See, I always say, Terrifier, movies are dumb and fun. I like those movies. They're fun, And of course,
they're just
demise.
They're just, bat crap crazy with the kills and all that sort of thing. But yeah, I was fortunate enough to be in not just one Terrifier movie, but two of them, which is very rare for somebody to return in another film. But yeah, I mean, what a phenomenon that franchise has become, where Terrifier 3, unrated horror movie, made $100 million at the box office, which is just unrated indie horror film. I think the budget was about $2.5 million or $3 million, and they made $100 million off it, which is just insane.
I love those Terrifier movies.
Yeah,
so much fun. So yeah, anyways, got the playoffs going on. A lot of stuff to talk to before we get to Fozzy. But have you been watching the playoffs?
Yeah, of course. I mean, the cool thing about NHL being on streaming is that you can just watch it. I've been watching it on Max, actually. Of course, following the Jets quite closely after they finished number one in the league. And, man, they never make it easy on their fans, I'll tell you what. But
that was crazy.
I mean, it was crazy. And then, they come out of that series, and now they're down 2-1 to Dallas. And I'm like, come on, guys, put it together. I figured after that one they'd go 4 straight against Dallas, but you never know what's going to happen in the playoffs. And to me as well, I just want a Canadian team to win the Cup. It's been 31 years.
Since the Canadians, right? 94?
93, yeah.
93, yeah.
So they need to step it up, but we still have Toronto, the Oilers, and Winnipeg in there. So fingers crossed. Almost a 50% chance so far that a Canadian team's going to win.
And that game with Toronto and Vegas was crazy the other day. The unbelievable finish.
Unbelievable finish, yeah. I mean, that's the thing. Where you just don't, you think. I mean, the Jets scored with 1.6 seconds left, and Vegas says, "Hold my, hold my casino chip," and they score with 0.4 seconds left.
Hold my toque.
Yeah. So it's there's nothing more exciting than NHL playoffs, and the Stanley Cup is the hardest trophy to win in all of pro sports. I don't care what anybody says. You got to win 16 times to win that damn thing. So yeah, it's exciting, man. I'm getting into it, and as a matter of fact, I'll be watching the Vegas-Toronto game tonight before we go on stage.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, the games have been wild, And it's like, here in Hockey Town, we haven't made the playoffs in so long.
That's crazy.
And it's like, I don't know. I'm frustrated. I'm at the end of my rope.
Well, I mean, that's the thing, and it's the same thing with being a Jets fan who very rarely make it out of the second round of the playoffs, or being a Leafs fan. I think it's one of the longest pro sports franchises without a championship. That's the pros and cons of loving a team, the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat. And then the Wings were so great in the 90s with the Yzerman dynasty. It's just like every team goes on a wheel. They go up and down, and you just got to wait your turn, man.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, we did have some many good years. So Fozzy out there touring, like you said, out there for the last month or so on this 25th anniversary tour.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy to think. And then, I was searching out some news before, talking to you earlier, and Blabbermouth always uses that picture in front of the Wyandotte Fire Department.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, we went across the street from the District 142 where we're playing tonight. And yeah, the fire, what was the deal? The fire department said we could go take pictures, but something had happened where originally we were supposed to take pictures with a fire truck. I'm like, I don't want to take a picture on a fire truck. Like, that's, what are we, like, One Direction or something? That just the monkeys here. But I said outside the place might be kind of cool. So we went inside, and the firemen were all excited to take pictures with us. And then we went and stood outside the fire department. And yeah, there's some good shots there. So that was, and I believe we even took some pictures inside District 142 on the staircase. So, you never know. Like last night, the photographer was there in Belvedere, Illinois. And it's like, well, where are we going to take a picture? Well, the lighting looks good in front of the bus. Let's just stand in front of the tour bus. Like, whatever. Because the thing is, listen, you can spend, hour on a photo session. When you first start, you do. And you change looks and you do this. And then when you start getting into it, all we need is one picture. 30 seconds, 5 shots, 10 shots, 20 shots. One of these is bound to be good. Or, because in the Photoshop era, one of these is bound to be good for 3 or 4 of us. And if the other guy doesn't look good, you take one of the ones he looks good and you just stick it in there anyway. So, and no one ever wants to take band photos, and it literally takes 2 minutes. So it's like, guys, let's just go out. We'll stand in front of the bus or stand in front of the wall. That looks cool. Same thing happened at the fire department.
Yeah. I can't imagine when you're doing like some of these, signings or different things like that. You must have seen and signed thousands of pictures of yourself.
Oh gosh, 100,000, hundreds of thousands. Jeez. I'd probably say at this point in time. I mean, it's been 34 years in the business, and especially now with, the advent of with streaming. Nobody buys physical copies of anything unless it's signed. And then this becomes a very cool souvenir. I mean, we sell so many vinyl albums at Fozzy shows because people love that as a souvenir. They don't listen to it, or maybe they do, but they just take the signed album and then, you put it on the wall or whatever. And it's kind of a cool artistic piece, and even with, the conventions now are so popular, the horror conventions, the pop culture conventions. I mean, I don't do a lot of them, but when I do, I mean, you're sitting there for 8 hours with, gosh, I don't know how many people stand in line for that long, signing. So yeah, probably 100,000 at least of pictures and action figures and albums and dolls and movie posters and shirts and babies and breasts and you name it, I've signed it.
I was going to say, because you got your wrestling. You got the band.
Yeah.
You got the, Sharknado stuff. You probably
Terrifier is huge.
Yeah.
That's become huge now. The last convention I did, probably 40% of the stuff I signed was Terrifier stuff.
Was that a convention in Pennsylvania or?
The last one was in Manchester, England, but I did just do one in Philly. Yeah, you're right. So I did do that one in Philly. So yeah, man. I mean, you these things you can literally do them every weekend if you want. And people show up. They love meeting. These heroes that are doing things now, or heroes from, Return of the Living Dead 40 years ago, reunion, and there'll be like, 800 people in line waiting to get, a picture with the cast from 40 years ago. And it's like, really? I never realized that movie was so popular.
Well, it is cool because we're about the same age. And it's like, you grow up in an era And like, for example, I just saw Anvil the other day, right? You know,
Really? Where'd you see him?
up at the machine shop.
Oh, okay.
And Don Jameson was there. And by the way, he told me, we're sitting there and he's got his CD and stuff. And he goes, but this one sells the best. And it was his album, the vinyl,
Yeah.
But seeing those guys that you may have watched as a kid, next thing you know, they're in front of you. I think people get a kick out of that.
I mean, dude, absolutely. I mean, even for me, like whenever I still meet certain people, like, I met Keith Richards a few years ago, and when you see this person in real life, it blows your mind because it's this person that you've seen, forever, and grew up with this guy and a legendary guy, and Keith Richards, and he's standing right in front of you, and you're like, this is crazy. Like he's a real boy, And so you get that a lot with when people want to come and see you, and plus, like I said, there's a lot of childhood nostalgia, a lot of childhood memories. So for me, it's great because you have people that were fans of mine, in WCW, or fans of the first Fozzy record, or fans of Sharknado, or whatever, like you said, and then you move forward. Here we are in 2025, so it's all those fans, but then it's new fans from AEW and new fans from Terrifier or Fozzy or whatever it may be that I'm doing. So people that have gone on the Jericho cruise, I think that's one of the reasons why that one always does so well. But yeah, I mean, people nowadays want the experience, and they don't mind paying for the experience. Like for our VIP program, which is super popular. People know they're going to get something special, and they don't mind paying for it. For in this case, when we do our VIPs, we do a mini concert, 4 songs. And usually 2 or 3 of them you won't hear later on tonight. And I'm thinking, like, when I was a kid, if I had the chance to go to, see Iron Maiden, warm up and do a sound check, but play some songs I wouldn't hear later on, I would have paid whatever I could for that. So to me, that's something that I feel that's got some value to it. Because people might say, well, why would someone wait to take a picture and sign autographs? Wouldn't you do that for free? Of course, I'll do it. You stay by the bus, I'll sign your stuff, no problem. But if you want to make sure to meet us at a certain time and you get to see us play from 2 feet away with, 15 other people, that's something cool. And songs you're not going to hear later. Maybe you can ask a question or whatever. So that's something that's very important in this day and age. And we take great pride in the fact we provide something very cool for people.
Yeah, and it's like we didn't have that when we were kids.
No, you didn't have that access.
Yeah.
And there's such thing as too much access, like on social media, for example. Some people are posting everything, and it's like, gosh, it's too much. Just stop. There's a happy medium there, so you want to make sure to give a little bit of access, but not too much where they're like, this guy again, he's taking a picture of his dinner. Like, who cares, right?
Yeah. So you mentioned Iron Maiden. Was that the biggest shows that you guys have played in 25 years?
Well, I mean, we've played a lot of festivals.
Yeah.
Where you play in front of 20, 30, 40,000 people. But as far as being main support for a band, which means it was Iron Maiden and Fozzy, that's it. Bank of California Stadium in Los Angeles in 2019. It's got to be the biggest show we've played, the coolest show we've played for sure. They were doing this stadium and they added us to the show. I'm still not sure why us, but they did. And it was I remember that Rod Smallwood, their manager, we were touring in New Zealand. And I got a message. We were there in October, and I got an email saying, can you open for us in LA in September? And at first I thought, it's October. Did I miss this? Like, did I miss the email? Like, was this last month? And I said, Rod, and I'm like, who's us? Like, what does he mean? And I said, well, who's us? And he's like, Iron Maiden, you idiot. I'm like, well, like I thought maybe you had some other band or something. I'm just like, and in September, he goes, yes, next September, like 11 months from now. Like, that's how far ahead you guys are planning this. Like, oh my gosh. Yes, we will open for you. And one of the coolest moments ever for us opening for Maiden. And obviously the Maiden fans are notorious for being, they're not going to Iron Maiden for anything other than Iron Maiden. They don't care who's opening. It doesn't matter. So you got a task in front of you. We had a great show though, and the crowd, we got the crowd to go nuts. And we had a great show and we had a great time. And it was one of the best memories that I can have from being in this band for sure.
Well, I'll tell you this much. You've created a bunch of street cred, not only in wrestling, but in the rock and roll world over the years, so that might help too.
Well, there is. I mean, that's the thing. Like when we first started with Fozzy, we had to work twice as hard to get people's respect because I was in the band. You know, wrestler guy is in the band, and that's fine. We have never had a problem with that. But the few things started happening. One was when Judas started breaking, and we became a radio band. Suddenly now we have 8 top 10 singles. 8. I mean, that's getting up there. You know, and it's like, oh my gosh, that's pretty cool. Then Judas goes gold, which in this day and age to have a gold record and it's on its way to platinum, that's very rare. And that shuts up anybody who still has a problem with me being the singer of a band. Hey, dude, I got a gold record. Right. You can complain all you want. But then, you know, doing the festival tours and all that stuff is great, but being invited to open for Iron Maiden, like you said, I mean, that's some street cred of all street cred. Like, we opened for Maiden in a stadium. We've got a gold record. We got 8 top 10s. Any other complaints? There's really nothing much more you can say than that.
Yeah, and it's like you did it the way that Dave Grohl did it, the way that Taylor Momsen does it. They've got success, and they make tons of money in other things, but they started out in a tour bus or in a van or whatever, going to gigs and playing gigs that some guys probably wouldn't even play.
Well, yeah, and you don't start out in a tour bus. You start out in vans, like you said, and you know, to have a tour bus is a big deal. And that's one thing about Fozzy that we've been really good with, you know, over the last 25 years. Is we've got a great business model where we can go on a tour, play a great tour, great shows, play in front of thousands of people, you know, probably 10,000. I think this tour will top out 10, 12, 15,000 people total. Now, Iron Maiden does that one night, but we're not Iron Maiden. But once again, that's still a lot of people. Yeah. And you can make a decent living at that. But you got to be smart about it, you know, and that's the thing with us. I mean, we don't really open for anybody because, you know, for example, opening for Iron Maiden, you know, they pay us, you know, a certain amount of money, but there's no VIP, obviously, and you're not selling any merch. No one's going to a Maiden show to buy Fozzy merch. I think there was like 28,000 people. I think we sold like $3,000 in merch or something, like 7 cents a head. But that's okay. You know that going into it. And obviously the benefits of playing in front of a large crowd is great, but we'll make more in Wyandotte tonight than we made opening for Iron Maiden. That's just the business financials. When you open for, you know, you mentioned the Pretty Reckless opening for AC/DC. I'm sure they're getting paid a decent amount, but DC can pay somebody $5,000 a night. They don't care.
Right.
Anybody would take that. You know, like, yeah, you're not negotiating to open for AC/DC.
Yeah, you take what you get.
Here's what you get.
Yeah.
Take it or leave it. Because if you don't want it, there's any other band in the world will take it. Same thing with Metallica. And I know, obviously, probably a Limp Bizkit is getting a decent amount of money, but, you know, a Mammoth WVH or Ice Nine Kills or the opening of the opening, I'm telling you, they're not making the money that you think because Metallica doesn't have to pay it.
Right.
You know, you want to go and tour with Metallica for the summer? Yes. Where do I sign? And any band would take that. So for us to be able to do it our way, I'd love to start building up to bigger venues, and that's always the goal. In the post-COVID world, when we went back on tour, it was a huge burst of people coming out because everyone had been stuck inside.
Yeah.
Now here we are 2-3 years later, there's a huge glut of bands because everybody's out touring. It's harder to draw a crowd.
Right.
You know, so, but I mean, that's show business, man. It always, like I said earlier about a hockey team, there's a wheel. You go up and down, you go up and down. And for us too, you know, you release a new song like Fall in Line that's doing great in streaming and on the radio. That helps build your crowd back up, you know, and then that's why you have to continue to release new stuff as well. So there's a whole strategy behind the whole the rock and roll business is a whole world that you never think of when you dream of being a rock star, quote unquote.
Well, as far as business, like you just talked about Fall in Line. I think last time we talked about this, you were kind of kicking around doing albums, dropping singles,
right?
So where's that stand?
Well, I mean, so I think our plan, we did it with Spotlight, then we did it with Fall in Line. We're already working on the next song, is just to release songs continuously. Maybe every 4 months or 5 months or 6 months, 2 or 3 songs a year. Because what happened with the last record we did, Boombox, we made it right. We started making it before the pandemic, and then of course pandemic hits, and then we didn't want to release it when you couldn't tour or you couldn't come promote it. So we took more time with it. And there is 12 great songs on that record. I know every band says that, but I'm really saying like every one of those songs could have been and should have been a single. 3 of them were, all did great. 3 or 4 of the other songs we play live, and the other 5 or 6 just disappear. never to be seen or heard again unless you listen to the record. And that bugs me. There's a song called Ugly. There's a song called My Great Wall. There's a song called What Hell Is Like. I'm like, all these songs, like, they should have been huge hits, but now they're gone kind of forever. And I didn't want that to happen again. And I just thought, rather than wait and do an album every 2 years where half the album is not ever going to be appreciated, let's do 2 or 3 songs a year instead. And every song gets its due. Every song gets service to radio. Every song gets a chance to be under the spotlight, no pun intended, on streaming. Every song will get a chance to be played live, see how it goes over. And I think that's the way we're going to start doing it. And the way people consume music now, I think a lot of bands are going to start doing things that way and already are.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that because, growing up like we did, you drop a record on and you listen to it, and there's many songs that some of our favorite bands will never play live. And they may have been forgotten, but not from the fans.
Well, yeah, because the concept of an album was so, like, I don't know what the word I'm looking for. It was a religious experience.
Yeah.
It was a sacred experience. You would wait. The new Maiden's coming up. The new Metallica's coming up. What's the cover? What are the song titles? What are the lyrics? What picture's going to be in the back? You would wait in line to buy a new record. Those days are gone, and that's just the way it is. I mean, you can cry about it, or you can just accept that, an album cover now is a thumbnail that you look at on a phone. We still care, but you could literally put, a black thing with a red F on it, and it doesn't make a difference either way. But like you said, you would listen to these songs, and some of them would be album tracks.
Yeah.
They would be called. But it's okay because you're listening to Master Puppets from Battery to Damage Incorporated every day anyways. So and they never got played on the radio anyhow. So all of those songs you'd just be listening to at your friend's house and in the car. But the experience of listening to a full-length album is gone for younger kids. They just listen to one song. They listen to a TikTok version of the song, which is 30 seconds.
Yeah.
That's another thing that's a thing now, where you're like, not even the whole song. No, it's too long. It's 3 minutes long. It doesn't matter. So, you have to stay ahead of the curve on all those things. And we've always kind of taken pride, once again, of being a little bit ahead and watching the trends and seeing how things go. And you go with it, man. And that's just the way you survive as a band for decades like we have.
Yeah, I think you mentioned Master of Puppets. I want to say that Metallica probably plays every one of those songs on tour at one point or another.
Oh, they've played them all. Yeah.
And that's kind of crazy to think.
Yeah, I think on this tour they're not doing a lot of it, but I mean they go through phases, because once again it's this tour let's do Master in its entirety, or this tour let's do Kill 'Em All in its entirety, or so you can always see, and then they stay away from the certain songs for a while. And when you get a bigger catalog, that's what Maiden's doing. Their next tour is all old stuff, and then they'll do a tour of all new stuff, and then it's just, that's what and hardcore fans like us go nuts for that.
Yeah. Hey, and Fozzy, is Rich Ward an original member with you?
Oh yeah.
Okay, Rich you two guys are the originals, right?
Yeah. We're partners in the band. Yeah.
That's what I thought. For 25 years, he came from Stuck
Mojo. Yeah. I mean, it's crazy to think, 25 years that we've been doing this, and I mean, once again, it's not easy to keep a band together for that long. We got a great lineup. It's the best lineup we've ever had. And a lot of that, not just as players and singers, but just as people. And that's the most important thing, man.
Yeah.
Chemistry is everything. Personality is everything. When you're on the bus for a month, you can't have any jerks on the board, man. You can't do that. It disrupts the apple cart. And that goes for crew, your bus driver, everything. You're on that pirate ship. Everybody's got to be on the same page. So that's not easy to do either. But when we've been able to find a great group of guys, all veterans in the business who don't take anything for granted, and that's important too. You get some younger guys in there that think, oh, this is just how it always is. It's like, no, you got to work your ass off to get to this point, and continue to work your ass off to stay at this point. And that's something a lot of younger guys don't understand that. But so yeah, man, it's always a chess game to put together a great lineup, and we've been able to do that for a quarter of a century, which is so insane.
Adding and subtracting for sure. So what's coming up? You said you're going to maybe drop another single here in a little bit. This is the last date of this tour. You guys have any studio time coming up? You got any tours coming up this summer?
Well, I mean, we tend not to tour in the summer because everyone else does. We'll go out again in the fall. I think we're going to go talking about going to Australia. We'll go back to the UK where we always do very well in February. And in that time frame, we'll release another song. We'll probably do the States again, and we always kind of do the April, May. Some in the fall. I think this fall we'll go to Australia instead because we haven't been there in a few years. We do really well there as well. So yeah, I mean it's usually 2 or 3 tours a year, and we'll put out that next single in the fall. Which would be a good time frame because every single you put out lasts for about 4 months when you go through the cycle of everything. So that's about time to put out another one and just continue to build. The video for Fall Online will come out beginning of June. So yeah, you just keep putting out content is the word content. But yeah, that's what we'll be doing.
That's the maelstrom of Fozzy.
Yeah. Yeah, but the thing is too that everybody's in other bands. I mean, we're doing Quarantine Gigs, which is that's right 80s non-makeup Kiss band that we have. We did the Diesel Room a few months ago. It was a great show. But yeah, we'll be doing some of that in May and June. Rich has Guardians of the Jukebox, which is his 80s cover band, which is amazing. They're not covering Motley Crue and Poison. They're covering Lionel Richie and Maniac and Fame, I Want to Live Forever, and those types of tunes. So everybody, we just did a podcast yesterday with Billy, Rich, and PJ on being working musicians. You got to keep working. Billy's a guitar teacher. When he's not on the road with his other band, he's teaching guitar. I mean, there's a way to do it, but you got to hustle. Yeah, and that's what all the guys in our band do. And that's another reason why we stick together and why we got such a great rock and roll band.
Yeah, you mentioned Kiss. I kind of forgot about that, but yeah. So first of all, John 5 is from here. Have you seen his Kiss collection yet?
I haven't. I was wanting to go to his house to check it out because you have to go to his house. Have you heard how he's doing this?
Yeah. I had him on the show a couple months ago.
He meets you like in a parking lot, and then it's like you got to put like a bag over your face.
No way.
Yeah, really? Yeah. And he drives people to his house because he doesn't want anyone to know where he lives. And then you go look around at his museum. But the thing for me is like, I'd love to see the museum. He lives about 45 minutes outside of LA. But I've seen the Ultimate Kiss Museum that was in Gene's house.
Right, yeah.
So once I've seen that, like I don't know what John has that Gene didn't. And I'm a Kiss fan, but I'm not that type of Kiss fan. So I'd like to go see his place, but I would have to have a whole day free to do that. It's very rare for me to have that in LA. But I do owe him a visit to his place.
Yeah, no, it looks really cool. But
I mean, he's like, I've got a Casablanca, The Elder plastic bag that the album came in. I'm like, where did you get this from? And why do you have this?
Yeah, The Elder. I don't know. I think that album gets a bad rap, but I don't know. We could talk about The Elder all day long, but
let's not.
Real fast, one final thing here for you. Have you ever? Where's my? Okay. Have you ever taken the wrong luggage from a plane?
Oh my gosh, dude.
PJ gave me that one.
Oh, well, that's a good one. Well, gosh. So, usually when I'm on tour, we don't work Tuesdays and Wednesdays, and I'll go do AEW on the Wednesdays. This tour, I took the time off storyline wise. So I was flying. I did AEW. I flew to wherever the hell I flew, and I grabbed the bag from the overhead, and I took it and put it under the bus because I don't need that bag on the tour bus. So I go to AEW, fly, take the bag, go to where the bus is parked, put the bag underneath, and then we do 5 shows. The night that I'm leaving, I'm going directly to Salt Lake City to see Iron Maiden, and then going from Salt Lake City on Tuesday to Minneapolis on Tuesday to see Maiden, Salt Lake City on Wednesday for Dynamite, where I have a championship match, and I'm going to be winning the title, the Ring of Honor World Championship. I opened the bag just to put some other stuff in it, and there's all these clothes in there, like nicely folded clothes. And I'm like, and clothes that I would never wear. I'm like, what is this? I'm like, Simon, or turn Simon, is there another bag under there like that looks like this? Like, whose clothes are these? He's like, no, this is it. I'm like, oh no, I took the wrong bag, or someone took the wrong bag, and this is the one. And it looked exactly the same. Like it was the same freaking bag. Now I'm like, what am I going to do? I've got a title match in 2 days. What am I going to do? So I call my wife. She sends boots to the arena or whatever. I call the costume guy to start making stuff on Monday. all these different things. And I go to Maiden on Tuesday, and I'm hanging out with them before the show because, once again, they're my friends for many years. And I'm telling them the story, telling Adrian the story, and Dave Murray and Bruce Dickinson is there. And Bruce is really like, what are you going to do? Like, what are you going to wear? I'm like, I don't know, Bruce. I'm hoping to put together something, and we'll figure this out. So I get there. Earlier that day, I went to a sporting goods place and bought like some knee pads. And so I get there on Wednesday, and I'm able to put together a pretty damn good looking costume. The guys made me a new pair of tights. We've got a jacket made. Like, it's like, okay, this is going to work. I go do the match. I win the championship. Next day, I get a DM from Bruce Dickinson's wife, who I'm friends with. And she goes, we watched you last night. And Bruce was so excited that you had a cool costume and that you won the match. But he just thought the fact you had a costume, he was so excited about that. And I was like, that's the coolest thing ever. Bruce Dickinson watched my match and didn't care about the fact that I won. He just cared that I had a costume made. So there you go. I never did find out who took my stuff.
So somebody else has your stuff.
Somebody has my stuff. And they said, you have to drop off that bag to luggage. I'm like, no, I'm not dropping it off. That's my leverage. Yeah. I will keep that till the end of time, until this son of a bitch who's got my wrestling gear, which, by the way, it says Learning Tree all over it.
Yeah.
You know what it is.
Right.
It would take 2 seconds to Google and say, oh, that's Chris Jericho.
Yeah.
You can't sell them because I'm going to see it.
Yeah.
You can't do anything with it. Did you just throw it away? I mean, that was like $1,000 or $2,000 worth of gear. So I'm keeping your stupid, chino pants and your stupid khaki shirts. There was nothing in it. There was no idea in it. Nothing. Just these folded up weird, like a serial killer Unabomber who's so anally retentive. Everything has to be completely folded the right way. So I still got that. I still got it at my house. I'm never giving it back. Give me back my stuff, whoever's listening. You son of a bitch.
Well, I'm glad I asked that story. So, yeah, I remember Bruce Dickinson was telling me about how he got a hole in his trousers and his balls were hanging out at a show somewhere.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's Bruce.
Yeah, right.
Bruce is the best, So,
well, listen, dude, always great to see you. Thanks so much for coming in here. And Chris from Pot of Thunder told me to throw in the word maelstrom, so I thought that you would take that and run with that. So.
Well, I always forget you guys are friends. Yeah. So he used that the other night, but yeah, man, it's always great to be here in Wyandotte, which is not Detroit proper. It's like a suburb, right?
Well, that's a beautiful place. Really cool venue.
Great venue. So we'll be there tonight, man, for the final show of the tour. Always a great rock and roll area up here too. So it's going to be a great show tonight, man. We're really excited to end off the tour. The 2 most special shows on the tour are the first one and the last one, because there's just so much more, at stake, so to speak. So we're going to be ready to go tonight.
Well, thanks again, dude. Have a great show tonight.
Appreciate it.